The Magic of Wrestlemania, the arcade game. Get ready for WrestleMania. Today, we are taking a closer look at the amazing WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, which was released in arcades and for various home consoles in 1995. It was the first WWF arcade game since WrestleFest in 1990. It is regarded as one of the most fun wrestling games ever made. And we are looking at what made it so much fun, as well as how the various home ports of the game came out. I would love to know what your memories and thoughts of WrestleMania the arcade game are, but before that, be sure to nail the like button with a tombstone and hit subscribe for more fun wrestling content. Prepare for combat. The whole reason that WrestleMania, the arcade game, came to be was that the folks at Midway wanted to make a wrestling game in the same over-the-top style as their hit NBA Jam and Mortal Kombat. Midway Games, Mark Turmel and Sal DeVita, along with their team, worked very hard to make this game as much fun as possible. They took the crazy and fast-paced gameplay from NBA Jam, mixed it with similar fighting mechanics to Mortal Kombat, and then added this to the crazy world of the WWF, and it worked out perfectly. The digitized wrestlers, arena, and fans give the game a more realistic look than any WWF game had before it. The fact that Undertaker could shoot ghosts like fireballs, or Doink could electrocute people, let you know this is more of a fun game than a simulation. Little deals like hearts flying out of Bret Hart when he was hit, or big hams flying out of Yokozuna, just added to the personality of the game. The not-so-new generation. Development of the game had to have started around 1993. The roster of the game features 8 WWF superstars in Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Razor Ramon, Lex Luger, Bam Bam Bigelow, Doink, and Yokozuna. For 1993, this would have been a stacked roster of all the biggest talent that the WWF had at the time. Due to the development time of the game, by the time it came out in 1995, the roster was still great, but there were some glaring omissions. The most notable one is WWF champion Diesel. Diesel had been WWF champion for the better part of a year when this game came out, yet he was nowhere to be seen. Owen Hart and British Bulldog, along with Sid, are probably the 3 other constantly featured WWF performers who are not in the game. The roster is great and very varied, but by the time the game was released, it did not feel like a game based on the new generation, and instead like a game that should have been released in 1993. What are your thoughts on the roster for WrestleMania, the arcade game? Let me know in the comments section down below. 5-button death punch. What really makes WrestleMania, the arcade game, such a fun time is the way that it plays. The button layout is very similar to Mortal Kombat. As a matter of fact, the arcade machine has the exact same button layout as Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. You have 2 punch, 2 kick buttons, along with a block button. Each match is a best 2 out of 3 falls encounter, and you need to deplete your opponent's energy bar to win. Once this is done, you pin them, but there is no 1, 2, 3 count. You can move around the ring in all directions, and you can even go behind the ring when you're outside of it. You can execute moves in a similar way as you could in Mortal Kombat. For example, pressing back power kick with Shawn Michaels will do a pump kick. By pressing forward power punch, you enter into a head hold. From here, you can press button combinations to execute other special moves. Forward power punch with Razor Ramon to do the Razor's Edge, for example. WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, also has a very robust combo system. Combos had become all the rage in fighting games in the early to mid-90s, and that rings true here. As you wrestle, a combo meter fills, and once filled, your wrestler, through a series of button presses, could unleash a devastating combo. Each wrestler has a couple of different combos. As well as using your combo meter for an actual combo, you could decide to save it. if your combo meter is filled, and you can get a second wind and kick out of a pin. This gives you one last desperate chance to win. What were some of your tricks that you used to be good at this game? Let me know. Choose your title. There are 2 single-player game modes. You can try to win the Intercontinental Championship or the WWF Championship. Each one features 7 matches. The Intercontinental Championship mode has you wrestle 4 one-on-one matches, 2 handicap matches that are 2-on-1, and then a last 3-on-1 handicap match. The WWF Championship mode has you compete in 4 2-on-1 handicap matches, 2 3-on-1 handicap matches, and then the WrestleMania Challenge. This mode puts you against the entire 8-man roster. 3 wrestlers at a time until they are all defeated. You do this and you get a pretty funny story about what happened to the wrestler after. Bringing it home. WrestleMania, the arcade game, would be released for all of the home consoles by Acclaim, and they are very decent attempts. The Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn versions are the best when it comes to the visuals, but these games have built up a reputation for being close to the arcade, but that is not the case at all. To start with, the characters are far smaller than those in the arcade. They are more detailed than the other versions, but they are still nowhere near as detailed as the arcade version. Also, the PlayStation and Sega Saturn versions of the game have no music. There's music at the game select screen. When you lose a match, a snippet of the wrestler's theme music plays, but that is it. There is no actual music during the wrestling in the game, which is a real shame. The PlayStation and Saturn versions play great, but the loading times can get annoying after a while. Still, even with the issues, these are so much fun to play. In 1995, the 16-bit consoles were still going strong. So, WrestleMania, the arcade game, was also released for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis. The Super Nintendo version is an absolute mess. It is lacking 2 characters in Bam Bam Bigelow and Yokozuna, but it is the horrible slowdown and the unresponsive gameplay that spoil the game. When you look at how good the SNES ports of Mortal Kombat 2 and NBA Jam were, you have to wonder why they had so much trouble porting this. The Sega Mega Drive Genesis actually got a really solid port of the game. It may be the weakest in terms of the visuals, but it plays great and actually features the same music as the arcade version had. If you play on a 3-button controller, it can be awkward, but it's still playable. There was also an enhanced version for the 32X that was also released, and this version is far better than many people give it credit for. A PC port of the game was also released, and this shared many similarities with the PlayStation and Saturn versions of the game. One thing that all the home ports of the game have in common is that none feature the funny arcade endings. What was your favourite version of WrestleMania, the arcade game? I'd love to hear your memories of the game. What could have been? Over the years, we have heard many interesting stories about what this game could have had. The most notable 2 are, first of all, fatalities. That's right. There is talk that there would have been some kind of finishing move / fatality for the wrestlers. In the arcade version of the game, Undertaker does actually have one, but he is the only character to do so. Also, when this game was being made, Adam Bomb had not long made his debut, and he was supposed to be a hidden character in the game. This has been confirmed by Sal DeVita, and photo evidence has surfaced of him being mocapped for the game. WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, is truly an awesome video game, and a game that holds up very well. Well, as long as you're not playing the Super Nintendo version of the game, of course. It would be followed up by WWF In Your House for the PlayStation, Saturn, and PC, and that is what we will be talking about another time. Be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed, and also please hit that subscribe button. Also, I'm very interested to read your own thoughts on the game in the comments section down below. See you in the next video.